Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Bottom Line. I'm your host Emil, and today I've got a interesting guest. Like I usually say, this one is more of an emotional story because when I did a bit of research on the person who I'm about to introduce, they grew up in Alex, and then they developed their own business called Collab for Growth, and it's just a beautiful story. And I'm glad she's here today to actually tell us about it. So, Xoliswa, how are you doing?
I'm great, Emil. How are you? And thank you for inviting me to be on the bottom line. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's a real pleasure. But one thing I want to get straight into right now is, how did you get into the idea of having Collab for Growth, or what was inspiration?
So, Collab for Growth first is not my first business. I've tried many other businesses and failed dismally in some of them. And so maybe the backstory is that I started the entrepreneurial journey back in 2008-9. I was still very young at that time. And firstly, I did not even know what the word entrepreneurship or starting your own business meant, right? But I think when I decided to leave my corporate job at that point, I was like, you know what, I want to start something for myself, and I want to be able to empower people from like me who are coming from Alex, because the first business I started was a learnership or an out-of-school program where we're empowering young people to prepare for the world of work, having come from an environment where I was responsible for managing our company's learnership program and recruiting young people, a program that I came into through the company. So for me, that was a kind of the first idea. But because I had limited knowledge and understanding of what entrepreneurship is and what building a business meant, I struggled, and I made a lot of mistakes in that business, and I had to, go back to formal employment and learn again, go back, start another business. And I think back in 2018, when I started Collab for Growth, I felt I was at a better place and a better understanding of entrepreneurship, coming from an environment now again where I had worked for corporate companies, and I was responsible for designing and executing entrepreneurship development programs for African SMMEs. And I thought, this is an opportunity. And the reason I left corporate at that point was not because I was unhappy in my job, but I wanted to do this work for more than just the corporate I was working for. So I wanted to open up my pool and say there's an opportunity to really impact particularly Black businesses and help Black businesses build better. And I wanted Collab for Growth to be that business that doesn't just build businesses for sustenance, but build businesses for growth that can contribute positively to the founder's life, to the community, and ultimately to the economy.
So now that you told us how Collab for Growth came to be about, and you give us a bit of an explanation of what it is, what does Collab for Growth actually do, like on a bigger scale?
So for me, we are a venture building company, and we partner with organizations that support entrepreneurs who are backing entrepreneurs to succeed. And we design and execute programs that help deliver growth enterprises, right? So, and we work again closely with entrepreneurs on the ground, helping them from idea to growth. So we work with them to build their businesses. What does it take to build a business? So we put all the elements together, and we bring in the teams, we bring in the resources, and where possible, we bring in the capital to assist entrepreneurs to build their businesses.
So now recently you wrote a book, and I've seen it in exclusive books every now and then. What is your book about? Is it about your life stories, about how everything started with you? Or?
So it's not necessarily my life story, but it's the entrepreneurial guide. The title of the book is The Entrepreneurial Guide to the Promised Land. And I think for me, it's starting with the premise that when one is entering the business sphere or entering business, you have to come in with some end in mind, the end goal, right? And the book itself was inspired by the journey in the Bible as captured when the Israelites were freed from Egypt and went to the Promised Land. And that 40-year journey of getting to the Promised Land, the challenges, the triumphs that they encountered in that 40 years, to say entrepreneurship is exactly like that. When you're entering this phase, you should not be expecting an overnight success, number one. You should not be expecting that things will run smoothly all the time, but be clear and go in with a clear understanding that the promised land is there. And for me, it's also an invitation to entrepreneurs to say, define what that promised land is for you. and then work every year, every day, work on that journey, go on that journey of getting to the promised land. Some of us it will take us 5 years. Some of us, it will take us 40 years. Some of us, it will take us a year, but it is a journey. And so it's just an invitation. And we talk a lot about what entrepreneurship is because there's limited understanding. People think just because I'm selling something and just because I have a commodity that is in the market, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You're just a salesperson if there's no enterprise that you're building. And for me, it's saying, what does it mean to build an enterprise behind the products and services that you're selling? And how do you then ensure that this enterprise and these offerings that you have can help you live the life that you desire and can contribute to your own life's purpose, but also contribute to the bottom line? How do we build for purposefully?
Yeah. So still want to talk a bit more about your book. A lot of people, when they write books, because they're inspired or, they want to prove a point. Like, Dr. Zeus, he wrote a whole book just to prove to a point to one of his colleagues that he could do it. Yeah. So a lot of people, when they write books, there's always inspiration behind it. So what is the inspiration behind your book?
So for me, the inspiration was the process of trying to build my own businesses, failing and succeeding in certain instances, but also working with a lot of entrepreneurs on the ground, particularly Black entrepreneurs, and seeing the common challenges that we are encountering, And I mean, there are so many programs out there in the market, and everyone is like, sales, market, it's all push the numbers, which is great. And I think we should keep numbers in mind, right? We should be driving numbers. But for me, it's like, if money is the only motivation why we are in business, then we are in the wrong field, right? So for me, the inspiration was to say, how do I capture all my personal learnings, the learnings that I've learned from engaging and working with other entrepreneurs and other organizations that are supporting entrepreneurs, and saying, how do we then create a guidebook to help people build better businesses that matter, businesses that don't just deliver profit, but really deliver meaning and purpose in how they build and how they grow.
So far you've been talking a lot about Black-owned businesses within South Africa, right?
Yeah.
What challenges do they face? Because I can imagine there's still quite a lot of ground to the part they did it a while back, but they must still be heavily affected by what happened then. So are they still facing those same challenges today?
Yeah, so they do face, common challenges that every entrepreneur face, but the biggest challenge I've found for Black entrepreneurs, and I speak particularly for Black entrepreneurs because that's the market I've served over the years, right? The big market that I've served over the years. And the one big challenge is that most of us are first generation entrepreneurs, and therefore we have limited understanding and knowledge of what it is that we are signing up for. We look at the post in social media and people that are saying, I'm building businesses, and we think that is enterprise building. But in essence, we don't know,
So what you're saying
so for me, it's the knowledge issue, number one. Number two, it's the resource issue. So now that you can bridge the knowledge issue of saying, what is entrepreneurship? What do I need to build my own enterprise, and how do I set up my enterprise? So we can solve that. There's a number of ways to solve that. You can do training, you can do programs, so there's a number of things that you can do to bridge the knowledge gap. The resource gap is saying, great, you've got an idea or you've got an existing business, but for you to take this business to the next level, what are the resources that you need? Not just financial resources, because finance is a resource that is required in business. So finance, it's the tools of trade that you need. It's the human capital that you need. So we look at an entire scape and say, what does your particular business need in terms of resources for it to grow? And a lot of African entrepreneurs in particular don't have access to that. And if you think about finance as an example, to even secure finance to build this business is a challenge. Credit, they don't have security, they don't have all these things, so there's limitation. Human resources, I can't employ people in my business because I can't afford to pay them, and therefore I get limited. So you look at that, and then you look at networks. Because I'm probably starting out, I don't have a pool of people that I can simply call on and say, what do you think? Even at advisory level, how do I build, how do I unlock doors in this particular company? I want to propose my services, and people will say, no, call everyone, but you can't, So for me, it's the reality of those things. So for me, knowledge, networks, and capital and resources are probably the primary challenges that most African entrepreneurs are facing.
So before we do count, because interview is shortly coming to an end. So the main problem within South Africa, especially with the black-owned businesses and stuff, is that there's a lack of knowledge for them. So do you guys, as oh, we cut over here. Sorry, I forgot the name. Collab for Growth. Sorry, okay, take it from over here. So you guys, as Collab for Growth, do you guys help them in terms of getting them the resources and actually making them understand? And finally, as a last question as well, what inspiration do you have there for the youth? Because, I mean, South Africa is still a pretty young country compared to the rest of the world. We have a very young population. Our age rate is pretty young as well. So, with that in mind, being South Africa's majority youth, what inspiration do you have for them as well?
So for me, the first one around the knowledge gap, we are partnering with organizations that are supporting entrepreneurs, and through programs like we run for other organizations. For example, I'm in one program right now that just launched last week, right? A business accelerator program, and I did a 3-day boot camp. That's part of bridging the knowledge gap. But when we work with them as a coach, as an example, I can help one-on-one bridge those gaps, and we've got similar programs that we've done. But in terms of the inspiration for our country and for our youth, firstly, let's acknowledge where we are as a country and understand that we are starting at a back foot, and what challenges we're experiencing, but also recognize the opportunities, because we don't have lack of people that are starting out businesses. There's actually a big pool of people who are willing to put their hands up to start businesses. Where the challenge is how do we capacitate these people? So I would say for young people who are entering the space and wanting to build their own businesses, firstly, be clear about your end goal. What's your vision? What's your bigger vision for this over and above the money? Because the money will come as a result of adding value. But over and above making money, what's the big dream? So for me, it's have a very clear and audacious dream for wanting to go into entrepreneurship, because if it's just money, go get a job, you'll be fine. And you won't have to struggle like most entrepreneurs are struggling. But also be open to build relationships and collaborate with other people, because that's how most enterprises and most industries are built. They are built through collaboration. And particularly for Black entrepreneurs, start looking at ways in which we can circulate the rent and work with each other and buy services and products from each other to build our businesses.
Xoliswa, thank you so much for coming on and actually being very helpful, especially with entrepreneurship, because myself, I'm also trying to become one. I have my own little thing going on right now. And it really is, I think, quite important for you to actually learn and understand that failure is a good thing. It's not, you can't always win everything in life. Like, you do have to fail to learn. But I think also the important lesson is that you're teaching people how to actually conquer certain fears that they also might want to get over in this field. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and I hope the conversation was valuable for your listeners.
Before we end, is there any way people can contact you or find you on a website, or is there any way people can actually contact you and get a hold of you?
So LinkedIn is probably the best. So you can check me out, Xoliswa Maraka. You can definitely reach out to me that side. I am available on other sites as well, but I'm mostly active on LinkedIn, and I think that would be the best way to get hold of me.
Well, you guys heard where to get her. Contact her on LinkedIn.
Xoliswa Maraka.
LinkedIn, you can find anyone on LinkedIn, even Xoliswa. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, please leave a like, share the video with your friends, family, and colleagues like I always say, and we will catch you in the next episode. Xoliswa, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.